1998 was an extremely traumatic year for me. I was 9 years old and the Spice Girls had broken up. This was also the year my younger brother was hospitalized with a brief illness. It's common knowledge that last-born children stop at nothing to get every ounce of attention they can. So at first, I thought he was faking it. But as the days passed and my parents grew increasingly worried, I started to worry too. My parents spent each moment by my younger brother's side while the doctors ran a series of inconclusive tests. This was the first time my parents had ever left my older brother and myself at home alone. It wouldn't be long before my brother would take advantage of his newfound power and control. One day, my brother came to me urgently and said there was something he needed to practice with me. Full of light and always eager to lend a helping hand, 9-year-old me enthusiastically agreed. He then took me into our parents' bedroom, popped in a VHS rated XXX and not PG, and then used me to reenact what he saw on the screen. It was in that moment my older brother, my protector, not only took advantage of my innocence, but he took it too. The instant heaviness that I felt told me that what had transpired was not right. And while I was too young to understand what it was I was agreeing to, I still blamed myself for what happened. This planted a seed of shame that would root itself within the depths of my soul for the next 2 decades. There's a small yet significant difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says I did something wrong, whereas shame says there's something wrong with me. I went from being left home alone to being alone in my own home, as I would abandon myself, prioritizing the protection of the person who should have been protecting me. I chose to stay silent to protect my abuser and to uphold the image of the perfect family. When I tried to tell my mother, my words were quickly stifled in the secrets and silence I used for my survival and as a means to keep the peace. You always was my mother's way of dismissing me, and it was soul-crushing, to say the least. Without ever knowing of my abuse, my mom would say things to me like, all you'll be good for is laying on your back, or no man is gonna ever want you. And how you speak to a child becomes their inner voice, and my mother's words cut deep. 2 years after I was raped and sexually abused by my older brother, one of my favorite cousins would follow suit. My body would freeze anytime she would violate me, thinking that I was asleep. The seed of shame that was planted 2 years prior had now flourished and cultivated vines. My self-worth, identity, and shame all became intertwined. Maybe my mom was right. All I was good for was laying on my back, because why else would that happen to me again if that weren't a fact? We don't always realize the weight of what we're carrying until we feel the lightness of its release. And it wasn't until 2018, when I left a narcissistic friendship, did I realize all the areas of my life in which my unhealed wounds would bleed. I echoed the harsh criticisms of my mother, condemning myself with every breath. I stayed in physically and mentally abusive relationships that I thought matched my worth. I was a proud people pleaser, prioritizing the needs of others while never showing up for myself. In my business, I would undercharge and overwork because I didn't see the value in my talent or time. After making these connections, I decided to close my business to focus on my healing. I used my time off to pour back into myself and rediscover myself. I redirected my energy inwards, giving myself the love that I gave to others, and I built myself back up. I made it my duty to unlearn everything my traumas taught me. Filling myself up with love and affirmations, I proved that I had the power to nurture myself, reclaim my life, and create for myself what I'd been denied. No longer hiding the saddest secrets behind the brightest smiles, and 2 decades after my initial trauma, I have finally returned to me, and I am finally free. 1998 was also the year one of my favorite songs was released. The song opens with the quote, "To live is to suffer, and to survive is to find meaning in your suffering." And those words stuck with me for life. We're all worthy of finding the sunshine after the rain. and we're all worthy of finding the wisdom in our pain. Though we may not be responsible for our traumas, it is our responsibility to examine the cracks of our wounds so we may create new patterns and heal ourselves. After all, we repeat what we don't repair.